All right, welcome back, everyone. I got some special guests tonight. I want to welcome back to my show Mr. Wayne Steiger, and I've got some new guests, Mr. Jay Campbell and Jeff Doherty. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Doing good.
Thank y'all so much for taking the time to join us. We got a lot going on, a lot to talk about.
Thank you.
What's that, Jeff? You were breaking up.
Uh-oh.
I said thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much. So I want to start with Earth changes. There's a lot going on. That's what I do on my channel. I research Earth changes every day around the globe. And it seems like the Earth is really changing a lot lately. We got, besides, what's going on in Hawaii, with Kilauea and just the disaster zone that is right now. It seems like every day I'm seeing stories about hail killing people. The cracks that are opening up, just new cracks recently. We have Kenya, New Zealand, Mexico, Peru, Saudi Arabia. I just want to know, what is your take on what's going on? Is this a natural cycle, or is there something outside of our Earth causing this? What are your thoughts?
Wayne, go first.
Well, I think there's a lot of changes going on. I think we have to look at this from a perspective of what a cycle is. And, modern man's only been here with the records about 6,500 years. So I think I'm reading a book right now called Flare Star, and it's based on the theories of why the Earth goes through ice ages, what causes them, and then what stops them. And through all the list of all the theories and the hypotheses of what causes ice age, the one thing that they're coming to the conclusion is that our solar system is not near as stable as what we have been led to believe. And so who's to say that what we've been in for the last couple of thousand years is an anomaly? And that what is more normal is upheavals, a very chaotic universe.
Interesting thought there.
So that's my 2 cents.
All right. Jay, what you got? Jeff. Or Jeff, either one.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in, and I relate it to myself personally. About up until about 3 months ago, I wasn't taking very good care of my body, and I was having upheavals in my body. I was having volcanoes in my body. I was having cracks in my body because I was taking very poor care of it. Thankfully, I got in touch with Jay and with Jim Brown, and they set me on a path to where I began to treat my body with respect again, give it the proper nutrition again, give it the proper rest again, give it the proper exercise, give it the proper things to make it strong. And I can't help but wonder, how long can we as a species treat our planet disrespectfully? How long can we as a planet treat our planet without, how long can we as a people treat our planet without any respect? And I believe that it's a living being. And I know that's a little woo-woo, but if we're going to keep doing what we're doing, it's only natural that there be either A, repercussions for what we're doing, and maybe even B, a reaction from a sacred being to what we're doing. So not only do we need to, in my opinion, optimize ourselves physically, we also need to optimize ourselves spiritually and remember our part in this entire situation with this planet, with this universe. And I think if we start optimizing along those lines, we might see some differences.
Well said. So I agree with both of these gentlemen. Wayne, I've also read a lot of that stuff, books on tectonic shifting and what's really going on here. And I want to follow up Jeff's point, but just one to your point, because you made a really good statement. You said what we've been led to believe is probably not what's really happening, right? So let's stay right there, right? Because everything that we have been led to believe is either an outright lie or such an obfuscation of the truth that we don't really, as human beings on this planet right now today, even have any idea.
I'd agree.
Believe, right?
Absolutely.
I'm reading, as I was telling you, I'm reading Dr. David Hawkins' books right now, The Consciousness Guide. And it's amazing. And I highly recommend all of you read his books if you guys haven't read them. I'm sure both of you guys, Jeff and Wayne, I'm sure, Jeff, you read them a long time ago. But
Yep.
he talks about the ability to discern truth from error or truth from fiction. And there's so many people on this planet right now that have no ability to even discern truth from fiction, right? Like they talk about muscle testing things. I don't want to go down the path. That's a conversation. But the reason is that no one knows anything. And now we're at this time where we are having these great earth changes, both physical and universally at a conscious level, where we have all of these people, and we all know them, right, who are waking up and coming to people like us saying, why do I think these things? Why does all of a sudden this make sense? And when I used to think it was a conspiracy theory or whatever. So it's not just physiological. And by the way, Jeff is right. I don't even believe anymore because I feel like I've reached a place now with my awareness where it's a knowing, it's an internal resignation. There's no question that Earth is a live being. And we are desecrating it. And we have been desecrating it literally for centuries. And Jeff and I don't know where you are on this, Wayne, I know we're very similar of the mindset that there is a non-sacred being that's behind the desecration of the earth. And so, as Jeff said, we as a people, meaning the aware, and Dr. Hawkins says there's 4% of us, maybe 22% of us above 200 conscious level, but only 4% of us that actually know what the F is going on. It's up to us to lead as many people, whether that's 10 or 10,000, to a better path. And a better path is exactly what Jeff just said. The better path is take responsibility for your health and teach other people to take responsibility for theirs too. And what I mean by that, that can be as simple as Jeff always says, is stop eating fast food, right? Exercise, walk with your dog. So many people right now today that are brain, occluded or just, completely oblivious to what's going on. It all stems, and Jeff and I have had this talk so many times, from their chakras being blocked. They can't sense any truth or reality of what's going on because they've literally stuffed their body with shit. GMO food, they don't exercise, they smoke, they drink too much alcohol, they sit in the cubicle, whatever it is. We could go on and on. But that's why people cannot wake up to what is really going on because they're so blocked and so programmed.
Well, now that being said, if what you're saying is, so we're polluting the earth and it's reacting to us, and I agree. I would definitely agree. But how far is this going to go? I mean, how much can the earth take of us, basically destroying it? How far do you think it's going to go before we have a complete reset and we're back to, the Stone Age?
I think we're already in the reset.
Let me just go real first, and then you guys jump in because I just had this conversation literally in a podcast I did last night. And I know Jeff's agreed with me, and I'm sure Wayne, we're probably in the same mindset. We are very close to an absolute tsunami of change across this planet, economically, physically, and I hope to God consciously. And a lot of people like us that we talk to in our circles know it. We all feel it. We sleep at night and we wake up to vivid, bizarre dreams of like what is going on. So it's definitely happening. This is, the age of Aquarius, however you want to define it. But I honestly believe, brother, that we're really close. And I don't know, that's the sad part, because I really do feel I resonate so high now. I don't know if it's going to be negative for the majority of the Earth's population, or if it's just going to be some sort of, ascension to the higher level for the people that are ready and able to receive it. Anyway, go ahead, Wayne.
No, I did a video on this, humanity reset. And I think the evidence is starting to stack up to the point where the reset has already started. Yeah. And we're living, I believe, in the midst of that reset. And I don't know if it's going to turn out good or bad for us. If, it's the question, you look at sapiens as a species. The homos that have been before us, Erectus, going back to the Denisovans, the Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, we shared this planet with them for tens of thousands of years. What we don't understand is what happened in the last 10,000 years for the sapiens to basically dominate and eliminate all the other species.
Right.
And then today, we now live where the planet has seen more people than in recorded history. There are many anthropologists who are saying today that there's too many voices, that this cacophony of voices of humanity is driving us mad. It's much more controllable when you have a population of 1 billion, maybe 2 billion. But when you start getting to that point where there's so many voices, and now we are in the age of confusion. I don't think we're in the age of anything but confusion.
Totally. Go ahead, Jeff.
Excellent. And just for 1 second, let me say, as we talk about getting the planet back in shape, getting ourselves back in shape, Jay Campbell is the expert. I met him about 3 months ago. I weighed 247 pounds. I was in horrible shape. Today I got on the scale. I'm pushing 210. So Jay, salute.
Baby. Congratulations.
Yeah. It has to you. But I have one thing I always do is I try not to be the smartest guy in the room, and it's very easy for me. That's why I'm here tonight, is to get involved with smart people and great minds. I have a great friend named Dr. Andy Toltek. He is a indigenous shaman and an MD doctor, fascinating individual. Awesome. We've talked about this situation before, and I think that the earth is much more resilient than we think it is, and the earth will shake us off long before she goes down for the count. And I think Jay's hit the nail on the head. I think Wayne is hitting the nail on the head. And what I think we're really facing, and what both Dr. Toltek and I have seen, is there's not only upheaval in this physical realm, there's also great upheaval going on in the astral realm right now. Yes. And what we're seeing is a collapse and a move and a shrinking. And what's going to happen, I'm theorizing, but I believe this, is that this, whether you call it the event, whether you call it ascension, whether you call it Armageddon, whatever you call it, I think it's coming, and I agree with Jay and Wayne that if we're not already in it, we're going to be in it very, very soon, that there's a time when the people that are ready are going to ascend, move on up, whatever you want to call it, and the people that aren't ready, in Dr. Toltek's words, the smart ones will go into the trees because that's the only way to survive after we're gone. So there's going to be a great ascension and a great declension simultaneously, both in the astral and in this physical realm. So either lead, follow, or get out of the way. You're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And I think we've got 6-7 more years to really make up our minds.
Right.
You guys' comments are amazing. Let me just say this. I am a very astute person of economies. You know, I have a residential real estate practice here in Southern California. I have a bunch of guys that work for me, and I am very much looking and reading the tea leaves. I subscribe to a lot of financial analysis. We are much closer to a financial change than probably what Jeff just said, because I agree. I feel like we have 6 or 7 years as a species before widespread change, but the financial tsunami is way closer. I mean, I'm seeing stuff right now, guys, that this cannot last. Interest rates are coming up. We all see these things. We all know how it works. We know that Wall Street plays games. I mean, it's literally come back full circle to 2007, 2008. The bigger issue, though, is that then it was more limited to regionality of the United States and North America. And now we are such an interconnected global economy that all it takes is one spot going bad, whether that's us, China, the BRICS nations, whatever, and it's all going to go to shit. So my guess is we are literally going to be in a free fall financial collapse. And I'm honest when I say this, within 2 years. There's no way it goes longer than 24 months.
Then we face the 3 days of anarchy scenario. You know, once there's no food, the scenario, which I have the government documents, and this you can actually get it from the Homeland Security, is the fact that they're prepared for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with you, Jay. I tell people this all the time. When you vote, you ought to start really voting and start asking the questions. But the reason why Congress will never do a balanced budget, while they'll never audit the Fed, while they'll never audit the Defense Department, is the fact they don't plan to pay the money back.
Right, exactly.
A total collapse of the economy is the only way that you do this.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's well said.
And I can agree with all that. And I want to get back to the point that Jeff was making about, some ascension and then some descension going on. I'm wondering if that's going to come to a head as well. Like, I see a lot of people de-evolving. It seems like we're in a state of,
Oh yeah.
A lot of people just becoming stupider, basically, and we have those of us that are ascending. I'm just wondering how bad is this going to get? Are we going to see some type of, civil war or, an uprising? What are your thoughts about that?
Go ahead, Jeff. That's what they want is Jeff knows. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think that, there's an old spiritual adage, most people associate it with Kabbalah, but it's really beyond that. It's in most the great spiritual faiths. And it says, as above, so below. And the reverse is also true. As below is an indication of what's going on above. So if you look at the people in this world, let's just look at our country in the West, look at the rates of obesity, look at the rates of testosterone in men plummeting, look at the fertility in women plummeting. Look at we're below replacement fertility in all of the great Western nations. The Western nations physically are sick and dying. And I believe that's a reflection of what's also going on in the spiritual reality. We're in this thing. This is what we do. And we see this every day. And we know that people are spiritually sick and they're spiritually dying. But there's a core of us, whether it's Jay Campbell and, TOT Revolution, whether it's Wayne Steiger, whether it's Forbidden Knowledge, whether it's the little bit that I do, there's still a nucleus of us, and it's growing every day. So there are some of us that are going to, I believe, have our best time ever in the next few years, but it's going to be in the midst of great struggle. So now more than ever, it's time for us to pick a side. Now more than ever, it's time for us to decide to do something. And I still remain, in spite of all of the facts, voting, Mark Twain said that if voting was important, they wouldn't let us do it. But in face of all of this, I still have a great optimism that if we choose to get ourselves optimized physically and spiritually, that we can come out on the winning side of this. I don't think it's time for despair, but I think it's time to lock and load and get busy, because I think we're the last generation of real humans.
Go ahead, Wayne. Very well said, by the way. And by the way, stop underselling Jeffrey Doherty.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on, dude.
Are you serious, bro?
Like I said, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, and I'm not in this room for sure.
I'm just still trying to find that damn cat. But anyway, I think that I heard a guy say this a couple of years ago. I don't agree with his theology, but I believe that he said something that was very interesting. He said that he felt that the next wave would be the annihilist. And the annihilists are the ones that have no soul, no conscience.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Yep.
Antifa.
Yep. That's where we are.
Perfect.
And we're seeing it every day.
Okay. Let me just add to that. You guys probably saw this. I know Jeff saw this because I posted on Twitter. You guys, the article that was in the New York Times 2 weeks ago. Now we know the New York Times is celebrating this, right? They're part and parcel to all of this horrible, the dark force, whatever we call them, the dark horse hordes or things, or Lucifer's legions, whatever you want to call them. But 150 million men, Wayne and Jeff and Chris, are literally addicted to gaming in North America right now. 150 million men sit in front of their computers and zombify. They don't have sex with women. They don't desire sex with women. They literally are becoming, as Jeff said, low testosterone, high estrogen, falling apart at the seams internally and externally. It's both sides of the coin. There's the nihilism.
Jay, they sit around in diapers. They soil themselves because they don't want to get up and go to the bathroom.
Guys, it is so astonishing to people like us, older, who've been.
I can't figure it out.
I mean, we don't, right? Because we don't have it in us. It's truly a programming that started, and again, Dr. Anthony Napoleon in his book Shadow Men has literally demonstrated and documented this clinically with studies, empirical studies for the last 30 years. What they did to this generation of kids, and I call it mostly millennials, and really older millennials, like in their 30s, are not part of it. It's 25 and under. They have programmed these boys to be automatons. They are literally incapable of work, individual expression. They literally just want to go along, get along, play video games, like you said, soil themselves, sleep in their parents' basements, They have no desire to do anything. And you talk to them, and Wayne, you're so right on. That's exactly what they are. It's like, Donnie and what's the movie? Oh, they're nihilists, Donnie. Yeah. I mean, the truth is literally is they are. They've given up. If you talk to any 22 or 23-year-old, because I talk to a lot of these kids, because I hire a lot of them, who are pushed out of their parents' house from playing video games to get a job. And they say, why would I go to college?
Right.
I'm going to come out of college, $200,000 in debt, university education. I can't compete in the workforce. So they literally have been programmed by this social media, the computer, since birth, that their life is hopeless. So if I'm hopeless, then I'm going to just park my fat ass down in front of a video game console and eat myself to death. That's what they do.
And I'll tell you, it's even stranger than that. They're worshiping a God that has been man-made.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary thing. This God is a God of death. It's a God of no respect for human flesh. Right. And this is what they see reality as being.
And I could speak directly to the generation. I'm 37 years old, and many of my peers, they are exactly that. They think they don't have to contribute anything. They just sit there, play video games, go out drinking all night, and that's their life. That's the extent of what they look for in their life. So yeah, I mean,
they have no mission. They have no mission, Chris.
Right.
But you really are past that generation, because you're like me and Jeff. You're Generation X. Even though you're at the very edge, you are Generation X. I looked this up. I know all this data because I did some studies on it. But the millennials is 35 to 21 technically. They even have something below the millennials now. But you guys, it's so astonishing that these kids go to stadiums to watch other kids play video games. I mean, can you even comprehend this stuff? It's literally the Matrix unraveling right before us. And if you talk to these kids about this, you guys, Wayne, Jeff, Chris, they can't even comprehend what we're talking about. They think it's great. The New York Times lauds it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a powerful God. I contend, I did a video called We Worship What? And in fact, said it last night, that show me another God, whether it's the Christian God, the Muslim God, whatever, that has ever gotten the attention voluntarily of the entire species of sapiens.
Amazing.
We live in that day and that era now.
Yeah, and you can consider your cell phones and tablets a sort of
it's the same thing.
It's a black mirror, basically.
I was literally just going to say, let's not just say it's all men, because look at the young girls. It's Instagram and Snapchat that you walk around everywhere in public and they're going like this.
And they're vicious. I read a story in the Washington Post that was talking about the attacks in the New York subway of gangs of girls, young as 10 years old.
You guys, it's so crazy. They're not even interested in guys. We were literally, Jeff, you know this, I told you this, but my wife and I were at a business seminar in Florida 2 weeks ago, and our hotel was for a doctor conference, but our hotel was overrun. It was in Orlando by all this giant cheerleading convention. So we had all these teeny bopper girls, the last day after we were there, that were like part of this cheer. You guys, these girls are, so remember, men are maturing later and disasters, and girls are maturing earlier. So the young, like 12, 13, 14-year-old girls are all like fully mature adult female girls. And some of them are, highly sexed. But they're not interested in guys, because guys they have no interest in sex. They're literally like androgynous. So we're talking to a couple of these girls, and we're like, they're taking pictures of themselves in like provocative, sexy poses. And we're like, well, are you guys doing this to get the attention of guys? And they're like, oh no, we just do this for ourselves. We're competing amongst ourselves. I'm sitting there like, what is going on? We're literally young boys now, don't even have any interest in sex. They don't even give two shits. It's video games, Fortnite. I'm going to get rich playing video games. I mean, they really do if you ask them that. The majority of them right now, that is literally their ambition. I am going to become famous playing video games and make money. You guys, the NBA draft, The NBA, the commissioner's office, they have a draft for these kids now. They're paying them salaries to play video games. This is all being supported by the establishment. This is beyond a conspiracy. This is the directive. The prime directive is to destroy masculinity. They already destroyed the divine femininity when they did postmodern feminism, right? By bringing the women into the workforce and creating an extra taxpayer and telling them they were better and equal to us and working and doing everything else. They're not supposed to destroy the man. Destroy the divine masculine, and they've already done it. 150 million men are addicted to video games. I mean, how do we recover?
The Bee Gees. Well, Saturday Night Live, brother.
You guys, when I read that article, I almost fell on the floor. 150 million.
That is sad.
How many men do you know in their 30s who literally play video games 12 hours a day of their life?
Too many.
We all know them.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
Yeah, I've never played a video game in my life. I'm obviously hanging out with the wrong crowd or the right crowd.
Well, yeah, me too. I literally played Atari when I was growing up, and Chopper Command.
That was the pinball wizard. I played pinball and foosball. I mean,
you probably played.
Yeah. Well, I guess that as a baby boomer, I'm glad I grew up when I did, because to be candid with you, I love chasing women. It was a sport. And,
who does it?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, the counter sex found it just to be as sporting as I did.
I mean, I'm telling you guys, women. I have a 15-year-old in my house. Actually, she turned 16 today. She's at prom tonight. And thankfully, she's not out there, promiscuous or any of that stuff. She's very spiritual. But, we talked to her about it, and she's like, no. She's like, the boys are not even interested in us. Wow. I'm just like, what in the hell? You guys.
The Twilight Zone.
I did a podcast. Let me just say this real quick, Chris, and then bring up the next point. I did a podcast with a guy 3 days ago. Jeff, you got to have this guy. You got to talk to this guy. His name is Cameron Adair. He founded GameQuitters.com. He's the most famous guy in the whole world on getting people to kick their game addiction. And he told me some astonishing stuff. But that it's so bad now at the high school level in North America that kids are forced to play video games, because if they don't, they're literally ostracized from those clicks, because the clicks are based on video games and your score and the points you accumulate in this crazy game called Fortnite, which I don't know anything about either. But I mean, when you start hearing this kind of stuff, you're like, you guys, it has to crash. There is nothing that can save this. Nothing.
I wonder what the human psyche is going to be like. It's altering it.
Well, he has studies. He's been doing this for 7 years. He's 31 years old. He quit games at 22, and his company pays for research in Canada and Australia. And this rewires the dopamine signaling and the dendritic and synaptic pathways. And at certain points, he says after 4 years of playing video games, you're pretty much toast.
Wow.
It's worse than the SSRIs. It's like, you guys know this because we're old enough to remember this. Remember the statistics that said if you smoked cigarettes before 17, that you were 90% to be smoking cigarettes for the rest of your life. And if you never touched them before 17, you would never touch them again, because the chemicals they put in, not the nicotine, but in the cigarettes. The companies put the chemicals that addicted us in the cigarette. People still don't understand. Jeff, I recommend nicotine. It's an amazing nootropic drug. If you take it by itself, it increases brain power. But they make people think that nicotine is what hooks you. It's the cigarette and the tobacco. It's not nicotine. That's just a normal drug. It's a mild nootropic. But they've convinced everybody. So it's the same thing with video games. They've got them. They've got them all. They're all sheep now. Cattle.
Yeah, there's definitely an attack on the masculine. There's an attack on the feminine. There's an attack on humanism. There's an attack on us as humans. And, there's also an attack on spirituality. You heard they're trying to ban the Bible in China, or ban sales of the Bible in China. Have you heard this?
I have not heard that, no.
Yes, they're trying to ban international sales of the Bible in China. And certain bookstores are trying to ban it, starting in California now. And it just seems that not just Christianity, but all forms of spirituality in general are under attack. Would you agree?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, you know, I spent 20 years as a licensed minister, and that's been about another 20 years since I was there. And I've got to be frank with you, part of me doesn't really feel too bad that they want to ban the Bible in China and many other places, because by my, you know, I put the Bible down. I put down my Bible college teaching. I put down my Bible college training. I put down my 20 years of ministry, and I went back to the original Hebrew and the original Greek of the Scriptures and read them from start to finish, built up new beliefs about the Scriptures line by line. And I've come to the conclusion that it's about 75% what I call dung, because Thomas Jefferson said that the Bible contains a few diamonds encased in dung. So it's about 75% dung, in my opinion, about 25% diamond. But that 25% diamond is so good and so strong and so powerful that it's worth, in my opinion, still digging through the dung, because there's some teachings within the Bible, particularly within the New Testament, that still contain a transformative message, I believe, that was delivered by the Master. But it's not related just to the Bible. It's also in other great spiritual documents. But I think at the end of the day, for us to be liberated from the idea that all our answers come from a book, all our answers come from a church, all our answers come from a man, all our answers come from a woman, may not be such a bad thing. So am I against the Bible? No. Am I for self-realization, realizing you're divine, realizing you're sovereign, realizing you're free, unindoctrinating yourself? Yes. So I'm a little bit, great, let's get rid of it, but let's try to save that 25%. So that's where I come down on that.
Go ahead, Wayne.
No, here's what I've come to. I've been here almost 23,000 days on this planet, and I think the original, the good ones, I think something happened, and something blocked whatever that was here at one time. And I'm convinced right now that God, I wrote this today to a doctor who wrote me, and he was asking me some questions. And I said, I can't believe in the concept of God anymore, because I think the concept of God has been hijacked, and it's been put into a box and packaged into different flavors. If you like Christianity, it's here, Judaism, Islam, etc. And I think it's all the same guy. I think it's the same cat. Yep. And so the question becomes, the message that has come to liberate us, which I think the Master was talking about, is that they couldn't defeat it, so incorporate it. And that's where the confusion comes in. I'm not against the Bible. I just tell people, be very cautious when you read it, because it's a God spell.
Right.
That's just my take.
That's awesome. Let me just read this real quick to you from Hawkins, because I'm so enthralled in this right now. Spiritual progress is based on acceptance as a matter of free will and choice. And thus everyone experiences only the world of their own choosing.
Yeah.
The universe is totally free of victims, and all eventualities are the unfolding of inner choice and decision. That's some powerful stuff right there, and it agrees with both of what you guys just said. Of course, the great spiritual manifests and texts have foundational principles that we can all aspire to. They teach love, they teach compassion, they teach kindness and service to others. Those three things, I know all four of us agree, that is the basis of how humanity should live. However, because we're fallible, and we also know there's a real foul being running around here, organizing his mobs on planet, off planet, in between, it's really hard as a human, fallible, ego-driven person to not get caught into, the dissension. And as I was telling Chris before you guys jumped on the show today, and I know you guys are very familiar with Hawkins, but I mean, he's literally saying, guys, that only 20% of the world is even living above the integrity level of consciousness. Half of the world, if not more, is literally living in hate. Hate for opposites, hate for skin color, hate for opposite religion. So we can't even think in a big picture of saving, all these different people. It's like Jeff said, you got to pick a side. And hopefully you choose people like you, which should be vibrating to you anyway, right? Law of attraction always works. So that to me is that's the only thing you can really do. Sure, just live by the great ideals, right? I didn't say the golden rule, but it's all ensconced in the same. Service to others, loving vibration, peaceful loving kindness. That is my religion. Those are the spiritual ideals that are in all of those books. And as you said, Wayne, and you said too, Jeff, ego and the worship of frailty is what has taken over all of those books, and the message is lost. Completely lost. Anyone who lives by any kind of organized human-based religion is just a mess. It's that simple.
Let me throw something out for your consideration, if I may. Again, after 20 years as a licensed minister, another 20 years in free form or new thought, whatever we call ourselves, I've come to the conclusion relatively recently, like Wayne, that the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament, and the God of Islam is in fact the same guy. And I believe that whomever that God was, he's either dead or has been banished. And what we are now calling God is a thought form or tulpa creation of the same psychopaths that are attacking us physically, the same psychopaths that are attacking us financially, the same psychopaths that are attacking us culturally and socially. They have crafted this false God, this tulpa, this thought form that now runs this fear and guilt control matrix that we're in, and realizing that we're divine, we're sovereign, we're free, and realizing that people like us on earth that know this are willing to work together. And I'm telling you, I believe there are divine sentient entities between us and the highest inexpressible ones that stand ready to help and assist us in this effort to reclaim our divinity, our sovereignty, and our freedom. And for the record, I want to state that I am not in my parents' basement right now.
yeah, that was so well said. I agree. So again, that to me, this is not a agree or believe. This is a total internal resonation. All four of us know there are angelic beings that are here right now, most likely overseeing the whole Trump administration. They're the people behind the back doors. And again, I'm not saying Trump is good or bad. I mean, I don't know what he is. But there are definitely higher power, higher order beings that are overseeing this, because we all do feel that change is upon us. And I think we all deep down do see positive from a big picture standpoint. Sure, there's going to be a shakeup and there's going to be some form of tsunami or great change. Like you said, Jeff, it could be ascension. I don't know. It's not worth even debating. But there are higher angelic beings that are here to keep the balance of power. Otherwise, we would have nuked our sorry asses into oblivion a long time ago.
I think it's two things. It hit me when I was out walking, and our species, the greater percentage of us are in prisons. But here's the thing. This prison cell that most people are in, it has no door. It's open.
No bars, right?
No bars at all. But they will kill you if you try to take them out of that cell.
Yes, they will. They will. You're right. It's madness.
Yeah. And, you know, I heard this. I'm going to have this wonderful lady on. Listen to this, gentlemen. So a belief. We all have belief systems, but here's what definition of belief is. Belief is defined as a being convinced something is true without proof of it being true.
Exactly.
That's mind coitus.
The human ego does not have the ability to discern truth from falsehood.
That's the point. I think that's the problem.
Well, literally, what we have, all of us have. We, through our inner work and through our proactive approach to life have figured it out. We don't have all the answers. We're not omniscient, as you know, the more you know, the less you know, but we have figured out how to discern.
By the way,
look at the etymology of that word, believe. Look at the etymology of that word. Be a lie and you're effed.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this good doctor friend asked me, he said, the final question, he says, Wayne, how much does God weigh? And I wrote him back, he weighs as much as a thought.
There you go.
That's how much God weighs.
Very interesting.
Anyway.
Well, gentlemen, for the last half of our show, I want to get into something switch gears a little bit. Since we have a little time left, I'm going to share my screen here for a minute. I would like your opinions, speaking of all these great changes that we could possibly see soon. Can you see my screen there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you seen these before? NASA claims this is pixelation.
It's not. How recent is this? This is 2005.
This was 2005, but I'm going to go on. We have some more recent ones. This is 2010. I have 2017 here. Seems to be a very similar looking pixel to the one we saw in 2005. And let's see. There's another one, little different shape there on that one. Let's see, what's the date on that one? 2018. And another one. And another one, 2018. These are some of the most recent ones. So, guys, what are your thoughts on these? Are these just pixels? Wayne?
Well, these are from what, Core 2? And, yep. It's here. It's, you can call it what it is now. I know some debate has been that this is Mercury. But, the problem is that you can see what's trailing behind it. And, I've got a similar picture to this from a completely different satellite. I think that this has been in our solar system, and I think it's, as you can see, it's got a debris trail behind it.
Now, some people are saying these are giant ships as well.
Could be. I don't know.
So that's what I'm kind of trying to get into is disclosure and or the possibility of a brown dwarf in our solar system.
Could be a stellar core.
So my guess is, and again, there's so many permutations. All is a possibility. My guess is it is some sort of a probably, whether it's physical or not. It's not even. It's not material. But it can be seen in different, dimensions of light. It probably is something, a mothership or something of that capacity. I've been reading so much, I'm a big student of Anunnaki. I'm obviously very close personal friends with Gerald Clark. I've read everybody's books on the Anunnaki and all these things. I really honestly believe that everyone that's written about the Anunnaki has been deceived now at this point. I think that, as Jeff has told me and through his books, and Jeff's books, by the way, are amazing. If you haven't read them, Chris, please read them. This being in charge has just left error in everything intentionally. So as the smart esoteric seekers would go down the pathway, they would find things that were basically just more riddles and more lies. So I don't really know if it's Nibiru or a brown dwarf star or a giant planet that travels interdimensionally and that you can see it in a different spectrum or gradient of light. It doesn't even matter to me. I do believe, however, that we are in a time and place, as we all know, that there is going to be some sort of a shift, and whether that is something to do or related to this, I don't know. If you put a gun to my head, I would say it probably does. But I don't hold myself to the Anunnaki theory anymore. I believe now that Sitchin has been proven to be a fraud. I think it's obvious now. Even the people that aren't pro-Sitchin, that were pro-Sitchin have now come out and said, look, man, he made up a lot of his stuff. There's great researchers that have proven it. So I just feel like it's mostly a holy war, and whatever we see is a perception prison. and they change our thoughts, or they vibrate and create what we see based on our fears. That's what I think.
Interesting.
Chris, here's a picture that is in a completely different satellite and different light spectrum, and this has been around. It's starting. We can almost now begin to track its orbit. So just to let you know, it's been out there.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely things going on. I mean, would you say that they're going to disclose any of this information, whether it be, you know, aliens or interdimensional beings or something outside of our Earth that, you know, that we don't know, that they're going to eventually have to tell us about, or, you know, something will show up to where they have to tell us?
I think they already are.
Yeah, that was just
yeah. The Pentagon has done a beautiful job in the last 6 months of as much making the disclosure. There's something out there. Our military jets can't chase them. It's got a technology that even our pilots say that's impossible to see it, but they're the boys that are actually in those F-18s and F-22 Raptors, they can't catch them.
Well, Jeff told me this when we first started talking. And by the way, Jeff, you and I have known each other a lot longer than 3 months, bro.
Well, I know. But we started talking about optimization, getting really deep into it about 3 months ago.
I'm just trying to give you more credit. But Jeff told me this a long time ago. It's probably like about 9 or 10 months ago. And the reality is they have been soft disclosing everything with scams and riddles and error in the truth through the Hollywood socio-entertainment oligopoly, whatever the hell you'd phrase that, since the beginning. All of the high-level Masons, Roddenberry, Spielberg, George Lucas, they've been telling us through their Gnostic, esoteric, Masonic nonsense that there's an age-old holy war, good versus evil. And again, we're in a world unconscious of duality, so it doesn't even exist, good and evil. It's the pendulum, different times and periods of the pendulum moving back and forth. So we as humans trying to, you know, assert linearity to everything. There's a good and there's evil, a dark and a light. You know, if we're in a higher dimension or a higher consciousness understanding, which we're clearly not, but some of us can step out of our 3D matter suits and see it that way, then we know that it's all being told in a way to position it so that there's dark and light, there's aliens, there's reptilians, there's all these things. But again, Jeff explained it to me very, very well. And I'm obviously probably doing a shitty job paraphrasing it, but it's really an age-old holy war. It's good versus evil, again, for us to understand it. And again, good and evil can reverse courses and play different roles. And this is where we're at. And whatever we see, Chris, that Hollywood portrays it, a long time ago it used to be fairies and hobgoblins and witches and Draculas and Frankensteins, and now it's reptilians and insectoids and mantids. It's just constantly shifting based on the technology and the understanding and the know-how of the people in the populace of today. And the internet has shifted the balance. So I just believe that if you really break all this down, it is a holy war. And sure, maybe the guy who's in charge of the dark forces has a lot of minions and a lot of different races and a lot of different interplanetary beings, but it's all one holy war, guys. I can't see it any different than that.
Jeff, any thoughts?
Well, you know, as I sit here and listen to this, I'm silent for a reason, because this has never been my forte. It's never been my strength. And I've tried to kind of stay away from it because I found it to be rather speculative. But as more and more evidence comes to the fore, as more and more evidence is shown about, you know, these things, these objects in our cosmos, in our universe, I think that the conclusion I'm coming to now is that there are indeed objects out there. And the question becomes, are they malevolent? Are they benevolent? Or are they both? And I think the overall, and I'm one of the last great optimists, but when I see them, you know, bringing out 5G and, you know, bringing out, you know, the Stinger technology and bringing out all this GMO and all of these things that they're bringing out and hitting us with all these energy weapons and hitting us with all of these, you know, type of weaponry and things that are tearing us down that we can't see, whether it's poisoning our food, poisoning our air, chemtrailing us. They've figured out that it's a frequency and a vibration game. And what makes me feel good is that they figured out it's a frequency and vibration game, and everything that they're using against us to lower our frequencies, to lower our vibrations, it's all mechanical, it's all man-made. And we, as providers of information, know that the reality and the true use of real frequency and real vibration and real harmonics, they're trying to copy what we have, and they're trying to take us down before we really realize what we have. But we can take their 5G, their Stinger, we can take their chemtrails, we can take all of it, and we can defeat it if we can realize that we've got the genuine article before they kill us with all of this cheap imitation.
Well said, Ben.
Yes, very well said, and I agree. And you know, if as much of us as possible can, you know, come together and just, you know, spread the truth, raise our frequencies together, do you think it would be possible to reverse this negative spiral that this world is going on?
Are you asking me?
Oh, anyone, all of you guys.
Well, you know, I'm still a guy trying to change the world. And I still think that we can change the world to a large degree. But what we've got to realize now is if it is to be, it's up to me, it's up to you. We've got to change ourselves. We've got to change the people that we know. We've got to change the people that we can reach out to, because, you know, there's an old saying, you know, of the master that stop casting your pearls before swine, because not only are they not going to listen, but they're going to turn and attack you. And it's been very hard for me, but we have to get to the place where we realize time is of the essence. There's some people that are going to listen. There's some people that aren't. And Jay's a great salesperson in real estate, and one of the great axioms of sales is some will, some won't, so what, what's next? And that's almost the way we have to get with our spirituality and our teaching. We've got to fish where the fish are. We've got to reach out to the people that want to hear, and it's time to stop fighting and bickering and spending so much time and energy on the people that aren't going to get it, because I really think this up and down thing, some are going to get it, some aren't going to get it, and some people are going to have to come around for one more pass, but we've got to get focused, we've got to get optimized physically, spiritually, and mentally, and we've got to start focusing our teachings on the people that want to listen. I'm not saying abandon everybody, but think about how much energy we should spend on those people that don't want to hear, when there's not much time left to get out the message to the people that might want to hear.
Very well said. Go ahead, Wayne.
No, I happen to agree. I was just thinking the saying by Arthur C. Clarke, there's only two possibilities. One, we're alone in the universe. The other one, we're not. Both are equally scary.
Wayne, I must have misheard you. It sounded like you said you agreed with me. That must have been
just this one time.
Let me just add to what Jeff very elegantly stated. And I'll just default because I'm like knee deep in Hawkins right now. The pursuit of spirituality and actual spiritual development and change only consists of one thing: intentionality of will. So when someone wants to change their lot in life, whatever it is, and we've done a really good job on this podcast of delineating so many different people's lots in life right now, that is who we, meaning all four of us, can focus our energy and our efforts on, because they are ready and accepting and willing to change. And that's it. I mean, we can end this podcast literally on that, because you're right, Jeff. We know that 78, 80% of people are not open to it. So if they're willing, help them. If they're not, don't judge them or denigrate them or kick them sand in their face, but just leave them be. Let them do their thing. You know, he says in the book, honor their vacations.
Yeah.
Yes, very well said. Well, gentlemen, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Anything you got coming up, interesting going on? Any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with? We'll start with Wayne.
Well, I think that this is an interesting time. I see our species evolving before our eyes. We haven't talked about what our species is evolving into. We talked about the analyst and the mindset, but there's a whole nother equation, and that's the transhumanism that is taking place. And I think the time is running out. And I'm not a doomsday guy. Listen, I hate the fact that there's this book called Revelation that most of our society is bought into, because as I keep saying, wait a minute, if we got the playbook, why the hell aren't we changing the rules?
Right.
Who says that we have to accept this outcome? And that's what my mission in this life is to begin to wake people up. Now, I've received death threats. I've left them on my channel, but that tells me there's a lot of people out there, gentlemen, searching. And maybe between the four of us and others in our community, we can help them along that journey.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Chris, for inviting me onto this program. Thank you, Chris and Wayne, Wayne and Jay and Chris for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure. If folks want to check me out, they can go to Jeff Daugherty Show, Christian Whistleblower, New Cosmic Knowledge, one of those on YouTube. And I think the bottom line for me is that it's time for us to take responsibility for ourselves. It's time to be our own gurus. It's time to master our own ascension. It's time to guide our own spirit. And it's really time for us to not only start asking questions, but it's time to start questioning answers. And we don't get free until we realize that we are divine and we are sovereign. And the only way you really get to that is to do the hard internal work and unindoctrinate yourself.
Well said, man.
Yep.
That's awesome. I agree. The answer for every single person who watches this podcast is within you. And how willing and what is your focus and your master plan on pulling the best out of yourself, right? Because God, Jesus, whatever spiritual being, or, it's not external, it's internal. It's inside you. You just have to channel it and you have to tap it. And of all things, hopefully you practice this great spiritual teachings that we talked about in here with other people. And I am a firm believer that if you practice the love vibration with everyone that you come across, and that's how you treat everyone, your life is going to be great. I would say, just as Jeff, please, if anyone who watches this podcast is not familiar with my work, if you email me, it's jay@trtrevolution.com. I'll be happy to send you all 3 of my books. All 3, I'm very blessed right now, are Amazon bestsellers. They're on optimization, fasting, connecting to spirit, and then, of course, testosterone optimization therapy or more hormonal optimization therapy. You can also find me on Twitter at TRT Expert. I'm very active there. But again, humbled, honored, blessed, privileged to be with all 3 of you guys. And, of course, Chris, for having me on. It was an amazing show. I can't wait to push this out.
Great. Oh, thank you so much.
Chris.
I'm going to leave links to everybody's stuff in my description. Yes, you need to be the change in yourself that you'd like to see in everyone else. That is, that's it. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. It was an awesome show, and I'd like to have y'all all back on again sometime.
Yeah, let's definitely do it again. Come up with
It's
a
my pleasure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Great. Well,
Absolutely.
thank y'all. Y'all all have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank
All
you so much for meeting you, brother.
James,
Have a
good meeting
night.
you, my friend.
Nice to meet you.
Jeff, thank you, Chris.
Thank y'all.
Chris, thank you. You guys take care, brothers.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye.